to confuse us again. I don't know what he's doing, but he keeps doing it over and over again. He's so persistent. But I'm not gonna fall for his trap. There's no way this will make me back down. This hallway, there's a strange feeling to it, no? As if an invisible wall had been erected to limit our movement.
I am concerned.
Is it just me? Let's go this way then. What is this? We can't go in there. It's a biolab. Laboratory. 5C. Can we use this door? No, we can't. Dojo. Oh, it seems like we can enter this. Is this a dojo? It's full of strange things that makes me think there's no way we're inside of a school. Perhaps it's a mistake to expect the inside of this building to make sense. Perhaps. There's a book right there. What is this? Is this a manga? The title is Manga for Morons, A History of Hope's Peak Academy by Monokuma. Why is a manga with such a suspicious looking title laying out in the open like this? Ooh, let's start with the history first, class.
Hey,
Reading manga is the third best way to learn about history. Then what's the first, you ask? That depends on the person. So just as I thought, Monokuma made this. I totally explain how suspicious it looks. I really want to just ignore it, but there's no way I can do that. Fine, I'll look at it. Look at anything that might be a clue to getting out of here, no matter what it is. I picked up the manga from the floor and started flipping through the pages. An introduction to Hope's Peak Academy history as narrated by the cutesy character on the cover. The story begins with an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy is a government-funded school of privilege where only the most talented high school students can hope to attend. Built to raise hope in the nation's future, many of its alumni are key leaders of various industries. New students are chosen through a scouting process, but the ones who scout them are Hope's Peak Academy's teachers, who serve as both educators and researchers of talent. Hope's Peak Academy isn't just a school for talent, it is also a school for researching talent as well. However, for the past few years, Hope's Peak Academy has been suffering from a decline in funding. If this persists, the Academy believes they will not be able to make progress with the research of talent. So they decided to implement a new system, the Reserve Department. Unlike the main department who scouts for students, the Reserve Department utilizes a general entrance exam. Normal faculty was hired and placed in charge of looking after the Reserve Department. The expenses and exam fees for the Reserve Department are quite high compared to most high schools. Nevertheless, Hope's Peak Academy received an endless stream of applicants. Hope's Peak Academy was now available to the talentless commoners, people who only cared about the brand. With this, Hope's Peak Academy managed to amass sizable funds and began further research of talent. To create Hope's Peak Academy, earnest wish a true genius who would become mankind's hope. But just when they thought everything was going well, an unprecedented incident occurred. The incident that triggered the tragedy, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. That's right, it was the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy was crippled by this incident and was forced to shut down without accomplishing anything. The end. The ending was so sudden, like a manga that suddenly cancelled in the middle of its run. Plus, this phrase is mentioned at the end of this manga. The tragedy and the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. These names are so melodramatic, there's no way this incident really happened, right? This manga only mentions the names, so I don't really know the details, but no, it would just be a waste of time to wonder about things that don't make sense. More importantly, I learned something because of this manga, the Reserve Department. That department was only built to collect money. I was one of the Reserve Corps students, right?
But hold on.
That's weird. Oh, you're here again. Ah, that's the thing that's weird. It's you, of course. Hey! Why did you forget that you were part of the reserve department? The Future Foundation only took away your school life memories, right? But you should have known, even before you entered, that you had no talent, right? So, I think it's weird that you actually forgot something like that too. What do you want me to say?
By the way...
Based on my assumptions, the Future Foundation must have wanted to hide the fact that you were one of the reserve corps students.
I got it!
Oh, you willingly sealed those memories yourself. You wanted to be confident in yourself, so you wanted to forget everything that embarrassed you. You know, when humans experience trauma, sometimes they erase their own memories of what happened. It happens pretty often. Not that I would know anything about that, though. Are you saying it's my fault I forgot? That's not it.
Come on!
When things get inconvenient, you always get angry and try to brush it off. Well, that's expected of a reserve corps student. Damn it, what the heck? Reserve department. Sure. What else do we have here? Piece of armor. It's armor and a helmet. Did the map developers design this to reflect a Japanese dojo? Doesn't like it. What do we have on the other side? Training dummy. There's a straw post. I guess that means it was used for training. Surveillance camera. Cherry blossom tree. This cherry tree is in full bloom. Full bloom. It may be a tasteful sight to see a blooming cherry tree inside a dojo. But in this situation, it just looks bizarre. The target seems pretty far away. If the production team had more time, there could have been a mini game here. Wait, what am I saying? Sure. I think that's all, right? Oh no, that's the lockers too. There are a bunch of wooden lockers here. Each of them has a traditional looking wood block key sticking out of them. Guess they're just for show. There's nothing in particular that looks like a clue. So I guess we're out. Sure. So the dojo. There's nothing on this path. So I guess we go this way now. And we're back here. Sonia should have been standing there. Is this a gymnasium? No, it's 5A. That's a classroom. Oh, I might as well talk to Kazuichi, I guess.
What's going on?
This hallway, it's kind of creepy. I can't go to places that I should be able to go to. It's like some rule is being enforced for no reason. It's like there's an invisible wall or something. I know, right? Almost like there's an invisible wall. Not quite. Well, let's go to 5A. Yeah, there's another one of those. Book. Clock. The clock doesn't have any hands. What time is it right now? We can't see outside, and I don't even know if it's night or day right now. It's the book. Want to look around though. Iron plates. Metal slabs are covering portions of the classroom where windows would usually be. To go so fast to cover the windows like this. Does it really want to keep us locked inside? But why? Check the book. This is another manga. It's laying on top of the desk. This one is Manga for Morons, The Tragedy of Hope Speak Academy, huh? Wasn't the tragedy of Hope Speak Academy mentioned in that other manga too? That's why Hope Speak Academy went bankrupt, and it was a trigger for the biggest, most tragic, most awful event in human history. If I read this manga, will I be able to learn a little more about the incident? I took the manga from the desk and started flipping through the pages to see what I could learn about the event known as the tragedy of Hope Speak Academy. The story made heavy use of outdated, stylized drawings depicting characters solving mysteries. What's written here is, as the name suggests, the tragedy of Hope Speak Academy occurred at Hope Speak Academy. The key player in that event was a student named Izuru Kamakura. Izuru was a genius known as a symbol of hope, Hope's Peak Academy used all their resources to develop him. Supposedly, Izuru was a genius among geniuses and possessed various talents. Wielding superior talent for the hope of mankind, the Academy referred to Izuru as the ultimate hope. To protect such a rare talent, the Academy completely concealed all evidence of Izuru's origin and identity. Because of that, most of the students at the Academy were completely unaware of Izuru's existence. But Izuru was also known as a symbol of hope. Izuru, who was also known as a symbol of hope, was responsible for a horrible incident. 13 students at Hope's Peak Academy Student Council, among the Academy's best and brightest, were brutally murdered by Izuru. However, the incident did not end there. The Academy tried to protect Izuru's superior talent and conceal the incident as though it had never happened. However, a certain student began working in secret to use that incident to their advantage. The student uncovered what the Academy did, and by making the knowledge public, it stoked the fires of the reserve corps students who had long been dissatisfied with how they've been treated, and the uprising began. And that heralded the Hope's Peak Academy destruction. This is the entirety of the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Eventually, the incident would lead to that horrifying, devastating incident. The incident that would be known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Works cited Danganronpa 0. So it's not even the first game. It's like a game that hasn't even been released yet. With a heavy sigh, I closed the manga. Am I supposed to believe this? There's no way 13 people were killed at Hope's Peak Academy. What irony! For a genius known as the ultimate hope to cause such a gruesome incident. A talent like that is still regal for society. It's like trying to buy juice with a bar of gold. You should be lucky that you are incompetent. Damn it, he always has to lead up with something offensive. It seriously pisses me off. Danganronpa 0 is a visual novel actually. Oh really? Because I didn't see it on the Steam store, so I assumed it wouldn't have been released. But Ultimate Hope. But you mean like a visual novel, like a light novel, like an actual book, and not like a visual novel game? I need to mention that before too, but looks like it means something completely different here. Regular novel, I see. That's interesting. What Nagito said was the true meaning of hope, but for Izuru, hope simply means talent. More importantly, a genius who possesses various talents. Wish they had given me one of those talents so I didn't have to be in the reserve department. That's right, the reserve department. Here, it said that the reserve corps students and the reserve department began uprising. But what about me? Was I a participant too? Well, that's not possible. There's no way. I have no reason to do something like that. Anyways, I learned about the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, but the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history is a far worse incident, right? What kind of incident was it? And who this other student who isn't Izuru? A certain student who secretly used the incident to their advantage. Who is that? This incident is really messed up, but all he's doing is raising more questions. Mysteries just keep piling up. Guess we already investigated everything here, so we might as well leave. So we're back here outside. But it didn't change like it changed the other time. Oh, it did change. Kazuichi's not there anymore. Oh, this is... No, this is open now. Biolab. I guess I need to go in. What the hell is this room? It's freaking cold here. It's like I'm in a freezer or something. If I just stand still, I might end up freezing to death. I should hurry up and investigate so I can get out of here already. I see the Monokuma door right there. You can't hide from me.
I've been found.
Okay, what do we have here? Tarp. This looks like a plastic tarp. Why is this left out like this? Clean up after yourselves, you know? We can't check the shelves apparently. Refrigerators. I've seen this in movies before. It's a refrigerator for preserving dead bodies. At least that's what it looks like, but that's not possible, right? Keeping dead bodies in a high school biolab isn't something you should joke about. It just feels so forced. This idea should have been cancelled during development or something. What am I thinking? Developer jokes. It seems like that's all we can check, and then the book, I guess. There's another manga just laying around here. This time the title is Manga for Morons, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. I knew it. The next one will obviously be about this incident. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, huh? Just what was the incident really all about? It might turn out to be something lame. I flipped through the pages of the manga and hoped that I was right. A story about creepily drawn characters who get involved in such horrifying incidents. An incident known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Is this drawn so grotesquely because the incident itself is that grotesque? Anyways, the beginning of this creepy manga starts with the sentence, "The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was simply the trigger." At first, the uprising by the reserve Horde students that triggered the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was initially hoped to be resolved quickly, but the situation continued to escalate to dangerous extremes. The movement started spreading all over the internet and fostered a thriving online community. The community was not limited to students, but various peoples of various races and nations began joining in. But the movement was not confined to the internet and began spreading and eroding in the real world. When the movement started, it was indistinguishable from any other demonstration inspired by social unrest. But as it spread across the world, certain abnormalities soon came to light. By then, it was too late. The ends and the means had vanished, and wanton destruction became their only goal. The strong butchered the weak killed the weakest among them, and soon the weak formed factions to brutally murder the strong. As the violence and death continued to spread, the shock of their actions began to disappear. As if the era was regressing to a more uncivilized times, when senseless deaths were the norm. The media was oversaturated with deaths to the point where people would watch them while enjoying a meal. By the time the world realized what it had become, it was too late to stop what had happened. A feeling of immense despair began spreading and visually engulfed the world. Acts of terrorism and coup d'etats began occurring around the world. A war waged in the name of despair. A war fought not for principles, religion, or personal gain. Just war. Pure war. And because of that, there was no way to resolve it. How could a movement started by high school students progress to such hopeless scenario? The only explanation is the existence of a certain organization devoted to a certain student who influenced Hope's Peak Academy, a group called Ultimate Despair. Instead of using Hope's Peak Academy's talents for the sake of mankind's hope, they used them for the sake of mankind's despair. Key members of society used their influence to brainwash the masses in order to spread despair. Tech-savvy computer programmers wrote software to spread despair. The powerful and influential created new values and morals to spread despair. And with this, they created a tragedy, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. As long as ultimate despair exists, the despair engulfing the world will never end. The tragedy will never end. My heart was racing in my chest, while my body felt ice cold. And it wasn't because I was freezing in this room. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. This is definitely all made up. I mean, if this is really true, then what's happening in the outside world? My family, my friends, the convenience store I frequent, the nearby bookstores, my favorite restaurant. What's happening to them?
No.
Hey, are you seriously yelling at a manga? How crazy are you? Who would enjoy reading something like this?
What?
Oh my, you don't like manga? A high school student who doesn't like manga is like an office lady who doesn't like to eat candy. Enough. What is this messed up manga? I thought you'd obviously know about such a horrible event that destroyed the world, but for you to not remember that, such despair. That's the Future Foundation's fault, though, thanks to them stealing your school memories. The incident that happened during that period has been completely removed from your brains. This incident really happened and I actually forgot about it? There's no way that's possible. How many times do I have to tell you? All the clues here are real.
Hello.
Please understand, I'm rooting for you. If you don't learn about the full extent of the outside world, you guys will suffer for it. I just want to help you guys so you can live well-adjusted lives in the outside world. I see, so that's how it is. That's what he meant by what he said at the beginning. Well, as a headmaster, I'm conflicted, you know. On one hand, I'm really happy that you're finally going to graduate. But on the other hand, I'm worried about whether you guys will be okay in the outside world. That's why I'm thinking about telling you guys what the outside world is like before you make a decision. Whether you want to leave Jabberwock Island or stay here. He's trying to make us feel despair towards the outside world, so we want to stay on this island. But there's no way I'm going to do what he wants. Despair like that simply can't exist. The outside world should be filled with hope. Just like now. Are you in a time zone closer to mine? It's past midnight here. I guess you were talking to Maddie. I mean, UTC -3, so it's still 8:30 for me. But I'll be done with this in a bit, because I usually end the streams around 9. And then we continue tomorrow, probably. Perhaps, no, that's definitely it. The tragedy. Whether or not this incident really happened, what in the world is the Ultimate Despair group? If they're devoted to a certain student who guided Homespeak Academy to its destruction, are they connected to both the tragedy and the tragedy of Homespeak Academy? Plus, that one organization isn't just one person but a group of people. But if they're known as the Ultimate Despair, the high school students, right? What if they were actually able to do it? Then I guess that's why they're called Ultimates. Then are the killings we're involved in connected to them as well? It's no use, I'm going to freeze to death. I'm on my limits, I need to get out of here. Shivering, I ran out of the freezing room. Phew, that was close, I nearly froze to death. So, where should I go next? Oh, let's see. Still can't get into 5C. Do we have anybody standing around here? Oh, we can go to 5B now. Kinda wanna look around to see if I find anybody else. No. Alright, let's go to 5B then. I was asking Marty, yes, I know we live in Brazil. Well, I guess she's just busy. She hasn't seen in chat. Oh, I should ignore it. I'm just pretending. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see him. Why? Hello! I like how Hajime is like, nah, I should just ignore him, and I like immediately talk to him. Why? Hello, Hajime. I hope you're doing pleasantly well. Are you pleasantly well? You're pleasantly well, right? What are you doing here?
No.
Well, there was another thing I needed to tell you on this floor. I got bored of drawing manga. Can you forgive me for telling you by word of mouth? Should have done that from the beginning. I didn't want to read your manga in the first place. A high school student who doesn't like manga is like a sumo wrestler who doesn't like eating hot pots. I'm getting really fed up with all your babbling. Hurry up. What did you need to tell me? It's about the key piece of information you've been waiting for so long.
What?
Surprise! It's about the Ultimate Despair. Huh? Even though the term Ultimate Despair refers to a group these days, it was originally the title for a high school girl who was the most powerful, evil, and feared person alive. A high school girl.
Yes, indeed.
Lady Junko Enoshima. Junko Enoshima.
Hey.
As the former Ultimate Despair, she created a despair brimming with charm and humor. and created the ultimate despairs. There was one really horrible person in that group.
Hold on a second. I don't know what the ultimate despairs are, but it's not that easy to form an organization. There's no way people will join some fucked up organization created by a high school girl.
Humans are so obsessed with their philosophy, have an uncanny power to attract others. Excuse me. It's a trait shared by many famous leaders throughout history, right? There's nothing strange about it. That holds true for Lady Junko. With her charismatic ability to attract people, she even influenced those in the highest echelons of power. Her connections were the main reason the internet became the tragedy in the first place. So she even recruited people who would have been in a position to neutralize the threat.
Then what was their purpose?
What?
Like I said, why did they cause that incident? It doesn't even make sense. They had a purpose, right? There's no way they would do what they did without any purpose.
It was Junko Enoshima's despair. For Junko Enoshima, despair isn't about a purpose, a set of principles, a way of life, or an instinct. Despair is what defines Junko Enoshima as Junko Enoshima. What are you saying? I'm a stuffed plushie. Hajime is a human. It's exactly like that. Junko Enoshima is full of so much despair that she's truly hopeless. Living, dying, eating, loving, for her, everything is despair. What the hell? With her overwhelming force of personality, Junko recruited the ultimate despairs one by one. She controlled their despair by taking advantage of their love, hate, grudges, anything really. Junko's despair is far more dreadful than any other. The idea had been slammed right into their minds. And so, the ultimate despair who had been recruited became nothing more than Junko's limbs. All the despair, whether it was their own or anyone else's, was dedicated to Junko Enoshima. Okay, give me 1 second. Like believers making offerings to their god, like a mother providing food to her children. They dedicated all despair so they could escape from despair, all in Junko Enoshima's name. For example, they killed their families and friends and even destroyed their bodies through relentless mutilation. And to hopelessly top it off, they completely believed it was something that they had to do. There's no way something that crazy is possible. Do you know about the final days of the reserve corps students during the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy? For final days?
In other words,
Junko has the power to change people's values. This is also true of famous people throughout history. Hey, what do you mean final days? What happened to the reserve department?
of course.
They fulfilled their roles as disposable limbs. They believed in what they needed to do. And so, the 2,357 students of the reserve department all committed mass suicide. Mass suicide. Mass suicide.
What'd you say? All 2,357 students?
Oops. It wasn't all of them. One person was excluded. One person was excluded? Is that me?
Damn it. I don't believe it. There's no way I can believe this. Ultimate despair? Junko Enoshima? It doesn't scare me at all. I mean, bastard. Junko Enoshima is already dead.
Huh? Oh, that's a picture of her, isn't it? Ultimate despair has been added to the truth bullets. Reserve department has been updated. Interesting. What else do we have here? A door. Fuyuhiko. Despair. In our classroom it said hope, right? That's kind of interesting. Talk to Fuyuhiko. Hey, Fuyuhiko, is it true what you said? Junko Enoshima is really dead?
What, you didn't see? There was a book called Manga for Morons Killing School Life. Is that in that bloody classroom?
A bloody classroom? No, wait. What was that you said about the killing school life? Like the killings we were involved in, there were killings that happened at Hope's Peak Academy. As I recall, the mastermind took her own life because the remaining students worked together to defeat her.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. The killing school life ended up failing in the end. As a result, the 6 students who survived managed to escape the academy.
Hey.
For a manga about the killing school life, it was drawn with a lot of silly images and dumb gags. According to that, the mastermind behind the failed killing school life was Junko Enoshima. The mastermind took her own life, which means Junko Enoshima is dead.
Like,
It turns out the killing school life was part of the whole biggest, most awful whatever incident. Junko took away the memories of former students of Hope Speak Academy and forced them to kill each other. Former students of Hope Speak Academy, and she took away their memories. It's just like us. Apparently the whole thing was filmed by surveillance cameras and broadcast worldwide. There's only a limit to being a cruel asshole. The surveillance cameras were broadcasting the whole thing?
so.
The students of Hope Speak Academy are widely known as symbols of hope. By forcing people to watch these symbols of hope kill each other for the sake of survival, they were trying to fill everyone who watched the broadcast with despair all at once. It's messed up. But that messed up plan was stopped. Junko Enoshima failed. Junko lost to the students she placed in her trap, and after being overcome by the despair she created, she took her own life. Then Junko is no more. No matter how horrible she was, there's no reason to fear someone who's dead. Whether Monokuma's story is true or not doesn't matter. Junko Enoshima isn't alive anymore. Then, who is our enemy? If Junko Enoshima is already dead, are the rest of the ultimate despairs behind us? Are the followers of Junko carrying out her will? That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, the killings we involved in resemble the killing school life. Well, I don't know who the hell is imitating Junko and making us go through this, but an imitation is just that, an imitation.
No shit.
If the students from Hope Speak Academy stopped the real deal, there's no way we'll lose to some fake. But if this is really an imitation, are those surveillance cameras the same too? The cameras all over Jabberwock Island. Are they broadcasting to somewhere, just like the surveillance camera during the killing school life? Killing school life at the truth bullets. Ultimate Despair has been updated. Man, Hajime, you totally know about that story, huh? What? Do you have a problem with that? Well, I really wanted you to read the manga version since it took time for me to draw it.
What are you gonna do?
Oh well, I'll just raise the flag. A flag? What do you mean raise the flag? What's going to happen if you do that? One step at a time, you're getting closer to clearing my character route. You're not making sense again. Now then, I'll give you guys my all. I'll tell you everything I know, including information on the outside and the inside. I'll raise them flags like crazy. Do we have anything to investigate here? Doesn't look like it. Iron plates. This is the metal slabs. What did I say? This better not be remnants of the killing school life. Oh, it might be actually. Talk to Fuyuhiko again.
Hey,
The killing school life is all about how former students of Hope Speak Academy had their memories taken away and were forced to kill each other. Surveillance cameras throughout the academy were filming it and broadcasting it worldwide. The students are widely known as symbol of hopes. By forcing people to watch the symbol of hopes kill each other for the sake of survival, they were trying to fill everyone who watched the broadcast with despair all at once. But the messed up plan was a failure. Junko lost to the students of Hope Speak Academy and took her own life. That's why Junko Enoshima is no longer in this world. No matter how horrible she was, there's no reason to fear someone who's dead. Regardless, this situation that we're in eerily resembles the killing school life. I'm assuming that someone's imitating what Junko did. If Junko Enoshima is already dead, are the rest of the ultimate despairs behind this? Were they brainwashed by Junko into carrying out her will? I mean, the killings we're involved in resemble the killing school life that Junko caused. Poor Monokuma, get him a Patreon. What a surprise! You want to hear about the ultimate despairs again? No, I don't really need you to. Even though the term ultimate despairs referred to a group these days, it was actually a term used to describe Junko Enoshima, the original ultimate despair. Just started on his own. As the former ultimate despair, she created a despair brimming with charm and humor, and created the ultimate despairs. With her charismatic ability to attract people, she even influenced those in the highest echelon of powers. I guess he's just gonna tell the story again. Alright. Let's leave this place then. Actually, we might as well just like click on the door. It's gonna leave us to another different place. Old building, 4th floor. There's a kind of right there. Huh.
Change to a different hallway again. So sudden. What's going on to make... what's going on to make something like this happen?